Hey everyone, how's it going? Today I want to talk about the MCU. Yes, Marvel Studios has been in the talks about a lot of fans are talking about the MCU recently and Marvel Studios, so I really want to dive into that. Before I do, I want to point out there's potential spoilers here, just in case, just the behind the scenes stuff we haven't heard about everything. I will discuss stuff about um, Turtles coming back, recasting, or episodes being cut, and a bunch of other stuff along the lines of that. And also, I'm currently filming this on Tuesday, the 7th. We have Loki this week, and we also have the Marvels this week. I will talk about the Marvels in my spoiler review. I review the Marvel content on my second channel, so be on the lookout for that if you're interested in the stuff like that. Mostly that talk about everything, almost everything else here, and potential spoilers for Echo, the first trailer where it came out, so I'll discuss a little bit stuff about that as well. So just want to show that spoiler warning out there. A lot of people are thinking that the MCU is in shambles, and in reality, there's a lot of people who think otherwise, and throughout the history of the MCU, there's a lot of stuff that has happened with how we present these individual projects to the idea of that this is in one cinematic universe. It feels like everything has to be connected, and then this thing called Over Spotlight, where showing that it doesn't have to be like that for every single project. I'll discuss that a little bit more later in the video. A lot of people who watch the Marvel films in the theaters who have to, they feel like they have to look for knowledge. Basically, feels like this plus is their homework watching the MCU TV shows to understand what's going on in the bigger screen, and that's something that a lot of fans aren't fond of or feel exhausted by, and the fact that throughout Phase 4 we have so much content going on in that time. Now, if you are new to Marvel or anything like that, Marvel has like certain phases. We're currently in Phase 5. Not so very sure there's a lot of phases, and to basically have the MCU organized now. There's this man named Kevin Feige. He is someone who is in charge of the MCU. He's basically like the president of the board of the studios. Back then, now he's more in charge, and however, he has other people coming in, helping them out, and because there's a lot of projects going on that he needs help with because he's overlooking so many things, especially with the stuff with the new show, Daredevil Born Again. There's a lot of rewrites and a bunch of stuff that are going on. It seems like the stuff that is happening with the fandom is that they want to just slowly fade away, and they don't feel like they want to stick around, and some people are thinking about just never watching the MCU again or anything like that. Or there's a lot of people within the MCU fandom that fallen off the MCU train, meaning that they stop watching certain shows within the DC Plus series or MCU in general. Based on the track record on the stuff they got recently, the MCU fans actually wasn't a fan of the Eternals, She-Hulk, or Hawkeye, and Shang-Chi, Black Panther 2, which is really interesting to think about, because it's not just that, it's the entire idea of the fact that for them it's like we had so much content being pulled out in Phase 4, and there was a lot of stuff that has happened where in that phase for the fandom it felt like it was so inconsistent, and the fact that it is a cinematic universe means that it being connected and having consistency. The thing with the MCU fandom is they prefer consistency than connection, and that's not one and the same. You can have consistency of good projects within the shows that feel like there's something to it's worth watching for the characters, and then with the connection where if it's like you have to watch this show to watch this show to understand that show to understand this film, and then they prefer consistency. I feel like the Marvel Spotlight they will help pretty well, and that's something that will become something with getting the MCU Venoms back on track with cheering for the MCU again. I feel like some people within the fandom decided to leave and never watch the MCU again because they lost their trust in the MCU because of the stuff that's happened, and there are things that really felt weird to hear with how certain projects are, and there's a lot. For example, the budget was about $225 million for She-Hulk, and a lot of people were disappointed in that show, and rightfully so, because it wasn't. It didn't really provide anything for us. It didn't really do anything for us. I feel like it was just reclaiming content. The MCU fandom would prefer to have TV shows and movies rather than content, meaning that they don't want something to come out just because they had to put something out. They prefer to have something worth watching, worth seeing, and there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that will help the project become a project rather than just content, such as becoming consistent within itself. People would prefer quantity over quality. They prefer to have something good than something that's there, and that's something that most of the fandom prefers because it's felt disappointed for other years watching the MCU, and there's a lot of things that really felt like they lost their trust in all this. This article came out from Variety talking about the MCU's in shambles, and that's what some of the fandoms are saying online, that they feel like the MCU is falling off or has already fell down so hard and so rough it can never recover. I want to discuss that later. But this video is a kind of TikTok who talked about the article in more detail and debunking it. Let's check out, shall we?
So, everybody freaking out about Marvel. Ready? Check this out. The redacted guy. So everything that the Variety article claimed has all been but debunked. Shame on both Variety and Tatiana Siegel for writing a fake hit piece on Marvel, blaming Nia DaCosta for something that never happened, making up lies about Blade's script, and blaming minority characters. Now, first of all, DaCosta is the director for the Marvels that people are saying she left early. Well, check out the receipts. So first off, this is Eric Davis. He pretty much is the big guy for Fandango. This happens all the time, by the way. Also, DaCosta was still very involved in post-prod on the film. It takes a lot to direct a Marvel movie. Nia DaCosta was only 30 when she got the gig, Marvel's youngest director ever. She's a tremendous talent who is making history with the Marvels. If you don't want to see this film, all good. If you want to see it, then have a great time. But he goes on to say pretty much that she was very involved. She did not just leave for another gig. Then, Starberry Mike went on to show, I worked on a draft of this before the strike. Never saw a version where Blade was fourth lead or it was a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons, but I suppose a lot could have happened since I had anything to do with it. He was in 99% of the script as I was a part of. Now, that whole female thing that Variety was talking about, there was actually a script saying essentially it was like Blade's daughter and he was going to pass the mantle or whatever, and that was a really old 4chan leak. Once again, 4chan. Check out the next one. Now this one, Ray Fisher. You know the controversy was Ray Fisher and Josh Whedon.
Yep.
Rolling Stones and Tatiana Siegel need to amend this article immediately. Neither myself nor anyone on my team ever declined to comment on Rolling Stone. Furthermore, this type of rumor mill reporting is offensive, dangerous, and willfully evasive of fact. This was essentially when the whole thing was going around with the Whedon cut. So, yeah. Now, stuff like this, Marvel has discussed moving focus away from Jonathan Majors Kang of the Multiverse Saga. One plan they're looking at is the pivot to Doom. That's not new. That's not from Variety at all. Like, they wrote this. All they did was compile all these rumors that were old. Like, this is not new. And there's something that just popped up regarding Majors in London. So, we're going to be a while. As for this whole Marvel is reportedly looking at bringing back the OG Avengers cast, Iron Man and Black Widow would be revived. They haven't committed to the idea yet. Are you serious? Like, first of all, it's going to be Secret Wars. And second of all, that so-called Black Widow rumor, Black Widow rumored for a secret project and for Secret Wars. I talked about this back in September. This came from a random anonymous person on Reddit. Scarlett Johansson is set to reprise her role as Black Widow is in secret Marvel project, which she is also producing, as well as Avengers Secret Wars. Stop listening to everything right away. Take a second, take a deep breath, and stop taking things out of proportion. Like, look at this. Jeff Snyder. Reliable. Essentially, my whole point is just Marvel's fine. They're not in shambles. So relax and stop giving the troll Mark credit, okay? Just take a deep breath. It's all going to be okay. Worst comes to worst, recast Kang. Don't bring in Doctor Doom because you will diminish his arc. Let Doctor Doom be in the X-Men saga or the Mutant saga. Don't worry about it. Fantastic Four is like 3 or 4 films between Secret Wars. You don't want to do Doom that fast. You just don't. So, I know some of you might not like to hear that, but that's the truth.
So there's a lot of stuff that happened with the Blade script was we went so far, and there's so many writers leaving and a bunch of other stuff that has happened where there was a lot of stuff going on. However, the most important thing to recognize is the part where Blade being the fourth main character of this film. That part's not true. That part's, well, that's according to the person who was involved in the script that we saw in the video, who spoke about the Blade production and what comes to who being part of writing aspect within this. It makes sense that people that Tatiana lady who wrote the variety article just wanted to make noise, just wanted to get people all riled up in the MCU. Like the MCU is ending, it's all over, and that's not the case. I agree with him on stuff when it comes to Jonathan Majors and the Kane being taken out to be replaced by Doctor Doom. The stuff that he said there makes sense, and it doesn't make sense for why would Marvel want to cut the character, and recasting shouldn't be a problem. That should have been a backup plan for Marvel in general, in case anything happens before casting an actor. It's important to think of a backup plan if something happens. And honestly, with Jonathan and Kane, I feel like there's going to be a point where no one's going to be satisfied, even if he stays. If he's recasted, people will be mad. If he stays, people will be mad. If they replace Kane with someone else, people will be mad. And it's, no matter what, it's never going to be a easy win, because first of all, the stuff of Jonathan, which is obviously serious and everyone's innocent to proven guilty, where he has to be recast, and us MCU fans have to understand and will believe that that's the right thing to do. And the second thing with Kane, the character they place, it's important to think about what the plan is for the MCU going forward regarding him, considering that he's the villain for Kane Dynasty. It's important to think about focusing on his character. Don't just rush things out or anything like that because you want the actor out of the project or anything like that. Kane is a big deal in Phase 5 right now, especially with the Loki show, and there's a lot of stuff that within that show that really makes him feel like he stands out. Something very important is to think about how they go forward with him and everything along the lines of that. Here's another video of a guy talking about the MCU, and he does bring up the Dark World, which I think is irrelevant to the conversation. So other than that, yeah, it's spot on.
The MCU is not in shambles. Let me tell you why. Are they hitting some obstacles right now? Yeah, I'll give you that. But a Variety article comes out throwing a bit of shade, and everyone is so quick to just hate all of it now. They got some stuff to work out. They got some issues they're currently working on now. But what movie studio isn't going through that right now? And what movie studio hasn't gone through any of that? I mean, this is nothing new to DC. This has been happening years there. Plus, you're just going to forget the good stuff that's happening just this year. I mean, are y'all forgetting about Loki, the show that's going on right now that's in the middle of premiering weekly? This is such a quality show, even through all of the odds stacked against it, and it's still killing it right now. Oh, in the other stunning movie, The Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which wrapped up and solidified the Guardians trilogy as one of the best Marvel trilogies of all time. It's real convenient. We're just starting to forget these things exist immediately. And yeah, they had their misses. I'll give it to you. Thor Love and Thunder, Quantumania, Secret Invasion, all were misses, for sure. But it happens sometimes. Did y'all forget about Thor the Dark World? Listen, things happen, and that's all right. The
That's a
important
phase
part
one
is
thing.
that they are realizing their pitfalls, especially when a lot of it is external things outside of Marvel's department that they have to fight against. But they realize what is going on currently. They are taking the time to rework the things that need work. So this is the lowest point Marvel's ever probably going to be at, and it's not even that bad, and we're going to be seeing them bounce back here soon.
Good point on that. If there's a point where the MCU in the future is going to have another low point, it's understandable to have so many new characters being brought in because they finally have the rights to X-Men and Deadpool and everything. So it's a point for more studios to understand themselves that they need to take their time. The thing is, stuff going on tomorrow spotlight is very important to think about. Let's get into this article right here. MCU's new content banner explain what spotlight is basically. It's basically a way to have shows within the MCU that could stand out on its own and doesn't need any homework for. In other words, you need to watch anything else to understand all this. Like Werewolf by Night, the new Echo show that's gonna happen in January, and a bunch of other stuff along the lines, such as probably Act 4 Hotness, and every some other stuff along the way. Aside from Echo, fans do specials at Daredevil Born Again, Act 4, Dark Hole Diaries, so that the Act 4 title keeps changing on the default. This category will likely be grounded, probably street level characters within the story, and it's very important to think about character driven stories. It's always important to think about the fact that for the MCU to succeed and become what it needs to be, they have to focus on the story aspect of all. I wrote that, okay, this trailer seems promising. It's important to think about the fact that the MCU has to focus on story. It's not just about action. The thing that seems promising is the story aspect of all. I should really provide more context there on that tweet, but yeah, just talk about the story aspect of all. So here's an article about the Blade writer reviewed former Marshall Ali was the fourth lead in a female-led reboot. It's a reboot of Blade, and there was a lot of things that happened where the script had a back and forth rewrites. However, the fourth lead thing is not true. Yeah, it's very important to think about the video that we just saw about the first guy talking about the writer of Blade talking about not seeing anything that will set the Blade character in the back of the show, the back seat of the show, and that's something that is very important to think about because for Phase 4 and Phase 5 people in Marvel fandom prefer the MCU as the MCU, and it talks about, and that's basically them saying that it's being led by women in the most unsatisfying way for them, and something that is very important. If you talk about a Blade film, it's important to have Blade in the film, and that's something very important to think about. The story aspect of the main priority for every single project is story, and make sure it's not just content, something that could stand out, become what it's meant to be for the comic book character to be brought into the limelight. The thing with Scarlett Johansson is that she's producing a project that's still in the works. However, it's still happening at not currently, just and it's really happy right now. So it's going to happen eventually. And the talks about Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are down to come back, and it's very important to think about that if they're brought back, they're going to do so they will want to do so for the right reasons, and for the right reasons, that's something that more studios is also considering as well. It's not just bring them in for a cameo or anything like that. It's very important to understand that the MCU has a lot of stuff that's happened after Endgame to the point where we want to move forward, and the characters being brought back could probably redirect the fandom to thinking that Endgame was pointless, and that's not the case for, and that's something that the producers and Kevin, when Marvel Studios wants to make sure it doesn't seem that way, that they use the multiverse to bring the characters back. They didn't use it to the didn't use the multiverse aspect and to make it sense. And however, there are some people in the fandom who think that the fact that Endgame was a time travel type of film, they would basically if I feel like they would feel like it's a redo of Endgame. It's a much more bigger scale, and also just bring the they were afraid that the MCU would bring back the original six Avengers all together and screen it again for the sake of nostalgia. They bring them in, then they will may have a lot of respect lost from the fans who saw Tony and Natasha's story play through out the beginning of Marvel. If they bring them back, I believe they'll do so for the right reason and not just for the sake of it. So I saw this video from this guy talking about the animated show. Whatever, I can't really find the video. I tried, but if I do, I'll put it in the description. Anyways, the whole point is that he made in that video is that if we're okay with seeing the animated characters from What If, then what's the difference between seeing the original Avengers in What If versus on the big screen, considering they're one and the same, the variations and alternative points of the MCU's history that we know of. So it made sense the fact that when it comes to the What If stuff, we're okay with it. We understand that it's animation, yes, however, it's one and the same because it's still it's the animated it's the animated aspect of our, and for the MCU it's live action, yes, however it's something that is presented both presented the same way based on the idea of variations of those characters or in another alternative reality. So for sequels, for example, they brought the OG Avengers back. We really shouldn't be up in arms about it because if the fandom complains about the Avengers coming back, then they should have complained about the What If series then, because that's the same thing that they just saw. They're literally complaining what they already saw in a different aspect of what's the difference between seeing the Avengers in an animated show or in a one timeline versus this main MCU timeline in sequels in the future where we would see them we would see that different variation of them. Remember, if they bring back the original six Avengers, it will be an alternative reality within the MCU, so it's not really it's them but it's not them. And this we really shouldn't be quick to assume that Marvel is doing this just to do it for desperation. Now we all against seeing the original Avengers, and because we want to move on from Endgame, we want Tony and Natasha death was properly done in Endgame, and you want to move forward, and then seeing them brought back felt like we see it as something unnecessary to the point where you want to quit Marvel to together because you don't want to see what they have in the store for them in the future. That's understandable. That's your decision to watch or not watch the MCU in that way. And remember, and when it comes to the MCU, it's Marvel Studios, it's entertainment. No one's forcing you to watch this. No one says you have to watch this. You can also watch some of the projects and just enjoy the ride, and you can also stop along the way too. You can and be brought and you can also jump back in years later and watch anything or catch up or anything along those lines. Marvel Studios understands the fact that they have their audience is massively large and they're not going to be 100% satisfied all the way. There's going to be a group of audience that's going to watch all of it. So a group that's going to watch some of it. Some of them will leave. Some of them will leave it and come back. And for the ones who do come back, they're not going to play catch up or wait for the next big Marvel film or next project. They are just going to see how things were. They just see what happened. They would come back and just for a little bit, or come back and just enjoy the ride and not focus on the homework aspect of all. They are not going to focus on seeing. They're not going to focus on being consumed in watching all of this because it's their choice. And I also want to add the word properly into all this because they're probably not going to watch all of it, and if they do, they probably won't tell the other fans. They probably will just see it and move on and focus on other things. And Marvel isn't the only superhero thing out there, and there's so much other varieties in television or film or anything along the lines of that. The comic books that you just read of, you could just focus on watching the MCU from a certain phase and they never go past the phase 4, for example. They will just focus on the beginning and then just live their life as if it ended. So many people who watch Marvel see the same movies in different ways, and that's very important to understand how that really is and why that is. It's because we all look for something different while watching these projects. Alright, so that's all about with the Echo trailer coming out. They cut the episode down to 5 episodes instead of 6. I mostly talk about Echo here, and the fact is that it makes sense for them to cut the episodes down to 5 if it's going to be a lot, and this character isn't in everyone's radar. Not everyone is interested in the Echo and Maya. Particularly, they prefer to. If you see the trailer, you will see that there's another important character in MCU that people would rather see in the forefront, and I feel like having 5 episodes to make focus on Echo, particularly Maya Lopez's character's name. It's important to understand that 5 episodes would make sense. Not a lot of people are really hyped for this show before the trailer came out, and now the trailer's out. People are starting to have eyes on it, yet at the same time, they don't want too much of it. They prefer just a little bit, so that having 5 episodes will work. It's very important to understand, like I said earlier, about Jonathan being recast in the MCU because of what he's done outside the MCU. For clarity, I'm talking about Major's being busy with the trials. That's what I mean by what he's done. It's stuff that he's been doing to the point where it could probably affect his schedule with the MCU. Probably with him filming or working on other things that could affect the King Dynasty film. That's what I mean by what he's done. If King Dynasty replaces, not everyone's going to be happy. No one's going to be happy if he stays or leaves, or especially if they rush the character out. So it's important to take the time of it. When it comes to Marvel Studios, you have to understand it's a really massive film studio, so they'll have to have backup plans for in case any of the actors does something wrong, or it's one of these instances where Marvel will have to make a decision on what to do with everything going on with Jonathan and Kane. I thought this is stuff that's already been out. Crime Media's been out, Secret Invasion's out, Guardians 3 is out, Loki Season 2 is out. We don't have the Marvels this week. The trailer is actually it went from summer to January in 2024. They're still working on Blade. They scrapped Ironheart for right now. There's a possibility that the show could be brought back. However, we're nothing yet on that. like for his part of Spotlight with Echo, so that's going to be brought back. Daredevil Born Again. There's a lot of stuff about Daredevil where they had rewrites for the character and they scrapped it all over again, and now they have a showrunner who was actually this man who was the showrunner for the Netflix Punisher show. In the Punisher show, a lot of people who love the Punisher Daredevil they decided because that's someone who would probably bring some edge into Daredevil Born Again. So that's going to be something they're working in the future. Captain America New World Order, that's with Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson being Captain America, and I feel like they wrapped up mostly or something. Like they filmed some stuff already, and then we'll just see the film eventually. Probably next year. And they scrapped Thunderbolts for right now. There's no word on what's going to happen with this film, and we're gonna have to wait to see what's up. But then we're have to test it 4 eventually before King Dynasty, and then King Dynasty will happen. Probably a bunch of other MCU stuff in the middle between this one and sequels. Who knows? Probably not. We'll see. And then Avengers sequels, which we want them to take their time, like they're right for them, and they did what for every single one of these projects that they bring into the light in the future. The number one thing is story. You'd have the best actors, you'd have the best CGI, you'd have the best action. None of that would matter if the story isn't good. And now just good. It's good for the MCU itself. And something to understand is the story is the most important part of anything Marvel wants to do, and that should be their core priority throughout any current and future installment, regardless if it's on Disney Plus or if it's on the big screen. When it comes to storytelling, it's always about focusing on the characters to help move the plot forward, not the other way around, and not to have the characters just be there just to be there. So is the MCU in shambles? No, I don't believe it. Did the MCU fall off? I don't believe so. I believe it slipped and tripped. However, it was able to pick itself back up and will rise eventually to become better than ever was before. They had a low, and they were able to rise up again because they love the actual fans who actually care about the characters, and they see the fans as inspiration to do better, and we see all these new changes happening within the MCU because they want to show effort and care for the audience. And on top of that, if you decide to never watch the MCU again, it happens. It's an entertainment studio. It's not the end of the world, and there's a bunch of other stuff out there for you to watch as well. The MCU is entertainment, and if you decide to never watch MCU again in the future, it's understandable, and it's not the end of the world, and there's a lot of other stuff out there for you to watch, if you're into stories. Let me know what you think about the MCU going forward beyond phases 5 and 6, and do you agree with anything here? What have I said? Do you feel like the MCU has the ability to show us really good stuff and not just content? And do you feel that the OG Avengers coming back will help the MCU if they do it right? Or if you think there's no way for them to do it right, let me know. If you're interested in watching my reactions and reviews, you can see on my second channel, Tapia TV. I am currently reviewing Lucky, and also will watch the Marvels soon, so stay tuned for my review on that. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you soon.